The sin Catholicism never talks about, but everyone is guilty of. There is a sin so common that it feels invisible. A sin so normalized that it no longer feels like sin. A sin committed not in darkness, but in churches. Not by rebels, but by the faithful. It does not look like immorality. It does not look like disbelief. It often looks like loyalty. And that is why almost everyone is guilty of it. This is not a sin the church warns you about. Not because it is harmless, but because confronting it would shake the foundations of authority itself. So before you defend, before you react, before you reject, listen carefully. Because this sin has nothing to do with Catholicism alone. It has everything to do with human nature, power, and fear. Chapter 1. Why some sins are loud and others are silent. Every religious system speaks loudly about certain sins. Sins that are visible, sins that are personal, sins that do not threaten the structure. But history shows something uncomfortable. The most dangerous sins are rarely shouted from the pulpit. They are embedded into culture. Ask yourself, why are believers constantly warned about sexual immorality, pride, anger, greed, but almost never warned about moral surrender, intellectual laziness, outsourced conscience, blind submission to authority? These are not accidental omissions. They are structural necessities, because institutions cannot survive if people are taught to question power before questioning themselves. Chapter 2. Defining the sin without religious language. Let us remove religious labels for a moment. The sin we are discussing is this: handing over moral responsibility to authority and calling it obedience. This sin says, I did what I was told. They know better. It's not my place to question. I trust the institution. This is not humility. This is moral abdication. And God never asked for that. Chapter 3. Why this sin feels like virtue. Here is why this sin is so powerful. It feels righteous. You attend church. You follow teachings. You obey leadership. You remain loyal from the outside. You look faithful. But faith is not about who you obey. Faith is about why you obey. History proves that obedience divorced from conscience can produce atrocities while still feeling holy. Chapter 4. Jesus and the sin of delegated conscience. This is where the story becomes uncomfortable for many Catholics, because Jesus never condemned people for lacking obedience to religious authority. He condemned them for surrendering their conscience to it. Who did Jesus confront most aggressively? Not sinners, not pagans, not outsiders, but religious leaders who claimed, we know God's will, follow us. They fasted, they prayed, they obeyed tradition, and yet Jesus called them blind. Why? Because they replaced moral responsibility with rule-keeping. Chapter 5. Why institutions need this sin to survive. Let us speak honestly. An institution cannot function if every member questions doctrine, every teaching is evaluated individually. Authority is always conditional, so institutions develop survival doctrines: trust us, submit, do not lean on your own understanding. Questioning leads to pride. Over time, this creates a dangerous equation. Obedience equals faith. Questioning equals sin. This is not theology. This is control psychology. Chapter 6. Historical proof. Good people, bad outcomes. History is merciless. Some of the worst acts committed in religious history were carried out by people who were devout, sincere, obedient. They did not believe they were sinning. They believed they were serving God. That should terrify anyone who takes faith seriously, because it means intention alone is not enough. Chapter 7. Why this sin is never confessed. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you heard someone confess, I stopped thinking morally, I obeyed even when it felt wrong, I silenced my conscience for unity, I trusted authority more than truth? You will never hear this confession, because this sin hides behind respectability. Chapter 8. The comfort of not thinking. Thinking is exhausting. Thinking risks conflict. Thinking risks alienation. Thinking risks being wrong. Obedience offers comfort. It says you're safe. You belong. You're on the right side. You're not responsible. But God never promised comfort. He promised accountability. Chapter 9. Conscience. The most ignored gift. Conscience is not rebellion. It is the final firewall God placed between human beings and evil. When conscience is overridden by authority, religion becomes dangerous, and history proves that God consistently sides with conscience over institutions. Every prophet was a problem. Pause here, because this is the point where obedience stops feeling holy and responsibility begins to feel heavy. If this message unsettles you, it is not because it is wrong. It is because it removes the comfort of not choosing. Chapter 10. Why they taught me is not a defense. Imagine standing before God, not with your priest, not with your catechism, not with your community, just you. And God asks, why did you believe this was right? What answer carries weight? I was told, or I examined my conscience honestly. God does not outsource judgment. Neither should you. Chapter 11. This sin is universal. This is not a Catholic problem. It exists in every religion, every ideology, every political system, every culture. Wherever people trade thinking for belonging, this sin thrives. Catholicism is not unique. It is simply honest enough to expose the pattern. Chapter 12. The fear behind silence. Why does this sin remain unnamed? Because naming it would require leaders to say, "Do not obey us if we are wrong." Very few institutions survive that sentence. Chapter 13. Faith that cannot be questioned. Is fragile true faith does not fear scrutiny. If your belief collapses under examination, it was never belief. It was inheritance. God does not demand loyalty at the expense of truth. That demand belongs to institutions. Chapter 14. The cost of acknowledging. Acknowledging this sin costs something. It may cost certainty, comfort, social approval. But it gains something greater, integrity before God. Psychological non-begging, CTA. If this message challenged you, do not rush to agree or disagree. Sit with it. Truth does not demand applause. It demands reflection. The most dangerous sins are not committed by rebels. They are committed by the obedient who stop thinking. And the most terrifying words a believer can say are not, "I don't believe," but "I never questioned." If this message made you uncomfortable, do not rush past that feeling. Discomfort is often the first sign that something matters. If you know someone who relies on authority more than truth, not to judge them, but to help them think, share this with them quietly. If conversations like this belong in your feed, conversations that challenge comfort instead of selling reassurance, stay connected to this channel. Not for agreement, not for loyalty, but for honest confrontation with ideas most people avoid. And if you choose to engage, whether by subscribing, commenting, or simply reflecting, do it because truth deserves witnesses, not crowds.